Enough of that shit. Left my damn laptop downstairs. Oh, no, it's not. Apparently, it's too early for these mofos. What the? Yo, you mind making a comment to see if the comment section is working properly? All right, I can do it. Let's see. Aha. So the comments are working. I got so many messages and emails. All right. Let's see. So what's good, guys? Some current events. Man, there was another attack on the black girl at the fucking McDonald's. She beat the dude up for attacking her, and she got fired. Yeah, this world is fucking crazy. How you defend yourself from an attacker and get fired from your job? Ridiculous. But hey, shit like that happens. Alright, enough of that shit. Yeah, I swear it seems like every time there's either a new email, a new fucking. Ooh, this is a good email though. I don't know how that shit just popped up. Yo, Black History Month exhibition, remembering and understanding the heritage of Black Scrantonians. The Black Scranton Project would like to request the pleasure of your company in the opening reception of our first annual Black History Month exhibition, Friday, February the 1st, 2009 at 5 p.m. Marketplace at Scranton, Steamtown, second floor. This special presentation is an opportunity to enrich our knowledge base and help to deepen the connection between community and culture. Learn more about the exhibition. Oh, this is gonna be nice. This is going to be so nice because I will have some art on display. Oh, definitely. Okay. No more emails. Oh, shit. Mm, okay. No Facebook messages, no more emails, no more Instagram messages, no more text messages. What else is there to check? I really don't check like Twitter and all that shit, so that should be good for right now. So let's find something to listen to. Or we could go down my Facebook page real quick. Ooh, Michael Harrison. Wow. Michael Harrison gives a TED Talk
it's
on.
Chad. Did you hear? My app just got massive funding.
Oh wow, really?
All right, we're gonna come back to this TED Talk. Artificial Intelligence: The Coming Storm by Michael Harrison, TEDx Billings College, and this was posted. Oh, this is a little more than 5-6 months ago, July the 24th, 2018. Michael holds a Bachelor of Science degree with a major in theoretical physics, minor in quantum chromodynamics from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He's earned uh, he earned distinction in his master's program in aerospace systems architecture of the University of Southern California. He was selected as the TRW Space Technologies Black Engineer of the Year. He also is active as a filmmaker and has one of his projects debuted at the Cannes International Film Festival. Michael holds a Bachelor's of Science degree with a major in theoretical physics, minor in quantum. They're saying the same thing again. He's distinguished program for aerospace. Wow, that's weird. So to make the paragraph about this guy longer, they absolutely said the same thing twice. That's why I'm like, am I reading this shit right? I kind of scanned over it, then reading it out loud, and it's like you just put the same paragraphs twice. All right. So we're going to get back to that TED Talk by a black astrophysicist. Yo, Michael Jai White is a king of some African country now. What the hell? Alright, so my Facebook in the past day or so. I'm probably gonna get called a racist again for some of this stuff. So a friend tagged me. I saw this post and I didn't post it myself. I don't know why. It's because I've heard this story so many different times. The lady said, "Oh, some black guy tried to steal my kids." The other lady who tried to drown her kids like years ago said, "Oh, it was some black guy who tried to drown and kill her kids when she was the one who actually did it." You can go all the way back to Emmett Till when the lady said, "Oh, he whistled at me" or something like that, and they went and killed the little boy. And it's like, this is a historical thing. There is even I saw this one video, and I think I did. I would have to go so far back on my Facebook page because I posted it like maybe several weeks ago. But dang, let me see if I can find it. But it's really touching on this same scenario. And like I said, I post shit like this all the fucking time because it's so common. Dang, how far back do I have to go on my timeline? No, no, I'm not. I'm not gonna get to it. It was a while ago. But I had this older post that I posted, right? And it's this little girl. She has to be 5, maybe, and she's from the accent you can tell like they're in England somewhere, some British type accent or something. And the little girl is sitting at the table and she's being scolded by her mother, right? For eating all of whatever kind of snacks or something. Whatever snacks are in the house, the little girl ate all the snacks. And the mother is trying to get her to confess, like, why did you eat all these snacks? You know you're not supposed to. And so the little girl, who's about 5 years old, just tells this lie. She says, and mom says, well, who ate all the snacks? And then the little girl says, a burglar. Somebody broke into the house and ate the snacks. And so the mom repeats it, and the mom says, really? Somebody broke into our house and ate all of our snacks. And then the little girl says, yes, and he was a black man. And then the mom just busts out in shock and cuts the video off. And it's like, yeah, your 5-year-old daughter is lying about a little crime that she committed. And then in order to get out of the lie, she says that someone broke into their house and ate the snacks, and that someone was a black man. And even at 5 years old, this little white girl knows, like, this should technically work for me. I should be able to get over with this if I say it was a black man who did this to me, to our house, who violated our sanctity. And my mom should agree with me. And it was the weirdest thing ever to see a little girl like that just blatantly lie. And then not blatantly lie, but accuse it. Use a black guy as the scapegoat. And so, in more recent news, this lady right here from my home state of South Carolina, Kristen Michelle Rims, 26, lied about the November 2nd incident and was charged with filing a false police report and false swearing to police on January 3rd, 2019. Female faked the story about being robbed and almost raped. They have to throw in a fake sexual assault claim by a non-existent black man, and she even added fake injuries to sell the lie. Lying South Carolina woman arrested for blaming black man in fake Walmart parking lot attack. That's what I'm saying. It's like, how can you just out of nowhere, you just beat yourself up and say, oh, some black dude robbed me and tried to rape me. And so now you're going to have the police riding around all the hoods looking for this false description of some random black guy. It's fucking ridiculous. Here it is right here. And see, this is how ridiculous this shit is. So now we just seen the article. All right, let me get this started.
Where are they gone?
All right, so now we just seen this article, right? Right here, she even has a like a little bruise over her eye. And from my home state, I'm from South Carolina. You know what I'm saying? It didn't say what city it was in, but Jesus, I wish there was a better way to, if I put more light on it. Can you see it better? No? Yeah, lying South Carolina woman arrested for claiming black man in false Walmart parking lot attack. So this lady just came up with a story from nowhere and just tried to blame it on a black guy. But then when you see how easy it is look at this little girl. She has to be like 4 or 5.
You don't know. So who ate them all? Someone come around and ate the cakes? Yeah. So someone broke into a home and ate Mr. Kipling's Angel Slices. Didn't take the TV, didn't take, some jewellery. They took these cakes.
And it was a black man.
And it was a black man. So somebody broke in our house, didn't take the TV, didn't take anything else, just ate all the cakes. And her response was, and it was a black man. So what would make this little girl think to even lie like that? This is the world we live in. And the mom's laughter was this nervous, insecure epiphany of a laugh where she had to really hurry up and cut the fucking video short. And it's like, yeah, you probably didn't teach your daughter to say that, but somehow in the society that she lives in, she has absorbed this understanding, this knowledge, this awareness that the black person is bad and you can blame black people for things that you do and get away with it. Easy as that. What up, what up? MJ, who want a date? I'm in here ranting or raving about just about some current topics and shit. Current events from my home state. Oh, dude, like I seen the one. All right, so I don't know if you guys were in the other day when I was talking about the one lady said I was racist or whatever because the stuff that I posted on my Facebook page. And so, I don't know, I've just been trying to stay on a positive tip for, a few days. Just put some positivity out there. And then my homeboy just tagged me, and I saw the post myself. I saw the article, I read the article, but I didn't post it on my Facebook page. I didn't put it out there. And then today, my homie, tags me in it, yo, Trap, did you see this? I'm like, yes, I read it. I already read the article. And so I just was talking about that. So I'm from South Carolina, and there's all kind of instances. A couple years ago, the one guy who ran from the cops and got shot in the back 7 times and was killed, and then the cop walked up to him and put the taser beside his body, and then called dispatch and said, hey, we have a suspect down. He went for my gun. That was in South Carolina. The 9 churchgoers who got shot by Dylan Roof, that was in South Carolina. The one incident at the gas station where the officer pulled a black guy over and he said, hey, can you get your wallet for me? And so the guy reached in his truck to grab his wallet, and the officer shot him 2 times because he was reaching for something. You told the man to get his wallet. He reached in his car, and then you shot him twice. That was in South Carolina. You know, like, a lot of shit goes down in my fucking state. And now this shit right here is in South Carolina, where this young white lady says that some black guy attacked her and attempted to rape her in a Walmart parking lot. Now, she made these accusations last year, about 5 months ago, and through all the preliminary hearings and trials and DNA tests and all, it comes to find out the bitch is lying. There was never an attacker. She was never almost robbed or raped. Nobody brutalized her or physically caused her any damage other than the damage she did to herself. But for some reason she felt like blaming this on a black guy. And that was her thing. Oh, some black guy tried to rob me and rape me in a Walmart parking lot. And all the evidence says, no, bitch, you're lying. Why? Why would you even lie like that? For no reason. You know what I'm saying? Once again, just to have the cops in your area on patrol, riding around the hood, looking for random black dudes to beat up and take into custody because they fit the description that you gave the cops. Yo, and that's what it is. That's why this new article comes out. She's getting charged for that shit now. She's getting charged for it after all this, after all these months. It says, Kristen Michelle Rims, 26, lied about a November 26 incident and was charged with filing a false police report and false swearing to the police. So she was arrested. She was convicted of some crimes. It's more than likely, depending on her record and her background, she's gonna get a slap on the wrist, and this thing is gonna just get swept under the rug, you know, and go nowhere. But it's like, even with Botham Shane John, what that dude name was, who got killed by the cop who walked into his apartment, said, "Oh, I thought it was my apartment, and so I walked in and I saw somebody in there, and so I shot him. And then I turned on the lights and realized, hey, this isn't actually my apartment." You know? Like, and it's like, how do you get away with this shit? And then after the guy was dead, deceased, in the ground, and the cops are like, well, he had weed in his apartment. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? This man was shot dead in cold blood in his own home. In his own home by some hateful, spiteful chick who had some authority with the blue line and the badge to cover her ass, yo. You know what I'm saying? Just because she said, oh, I thought that was my apartment. She got to kill that dude, yo. Got to kill his ass in cold blood. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, I'll play this shit again. But this is how our society is set up. It is a certain subtle brainwashing that white people do not see, they do not understand, and they do not feel that they are being subjected to. Now, at the end of this video that I'm going to play, listen to the mother laugh. Listen to her laugh. It's not a good laugh. It's not a funny laugh. It is a nervous and shocking laugh. And some people have that where, you know, when they get scared or get nervous or something is really, they laugh and to try to shake it off real quick. But listen to what her daughter says.
Oh, just throw some ball in there.
I just kept hearing it.
And that's exactly what it was. But she still had the authority to kill this man. Because she said, I thought it was my apartment, even though the welcome mat is different. She's a police officer and she has a registered firearm that she keeps in her own home. So the building codes for people with firearms have different locks on their doors. So two things immediately. You know that's not your door because it has a different lock on it. You know this isn't your apartment because your fucking welcome mat isn't the same. You can walk into anybody's house and it's not a bad smell. It just smells like somebody else's house. They use a different laundry detergent. They use more curry in their cooking instead of seasoning salt. They light incense instead of using Febreze. And you walk into anyone's house and you can denote a distinct aroma, fragrance of said house. You can walk into someone's house with your eyes closed and no, this isn't my house. This shit don't even smell like my house.
Where are they gone?
I don't know.
You don't know. So who ate them all?
Someone come round and they just ate them all.
Someone come around and ate the cakes.
Yeah.
So someone broke into a home and ate Mr. Kipling's Angel Slices. Didn't take the TV, didn't take, some jewellery. They took these cakes.
And it was a black man.
Where did she learn? Where did she learn that last little bit? Okay, it's a kid and she's lying. We know she's lying. We know you ate all the cakes, little kid. Your mama know you ate the cakes. Everybody knows that you ate the cakes.
Where are they gone?
I don't know.
You don't know. So who ate them all?
Someone come round and they just ate them all.
Someone come around and ate the cakes.
Yeah.
So someone broke into a home and ate Mr. Kipling's Angel Slices. Didn't take the TV, didn't take, some jewellery. They took these cakes.
And it was a black man.
And that's why she had to hurry up and stop that shit real quick. Oh my God! People know that my daughter's racist. Like, where did you learn that? Where is she learning that shit from? And it was a black man. What? Huh? It was a black man? Who told you to say that? That shit is funny. It's hilarious.
Are they gone?
I don't know.
You don't know. So who ate them all?
I want to see this dude's reaction.
They just ate them all.
Someone come around and ate the cakes.
Yeah.
So someone broke into a home and ate Mr. Kipling's Angel Slices. Didn't take the TV, didn't take, some jewellery. They took these cakes.
was a black man.
Now, anybody want to tell me what in the Carolyn Bryan Dunham and diapers is going on here? First of all, what black person you know that steals would break into a white person's house to steal food? You ain't that damn hungry. Anybody who steals is going to steal furniture, appliances, TV, jewelry, money, stuff like that. You can keep that unseasoned food to yourself. I'm not saying that white people can't cook. I'm not saying that the food is nasty. All I'm saying is, in a general sense, we have different tastes. I've never heard any of my friends say, man, I'm so hungry I could eat potato salad with raisins in it. No. My point is, we don't want your food. That's the bottom line. It's more than obvious that this child has been influenced. I don't know. Maybe she's seen some other family members steal things and blame it on black men. I don't know. I say that because that was not a typical child lie. A typical child lie would have went something like this. Who ate this cake? You standing there with crumbs and icing all around your mouth. Huh? Oh, the cake? So, well, it wasn't me. I was in the kitchen and I saw the cake, but I remember you said that nobody was supposed to touch the cake, that was your cake, so I didn't touch the cake, and I saw the cake, and then I know it was yours, so I came back in my room and I was playing with my toys and I was being good like you always tell me to be, and then I came back in the kitchen and somebody ate the cake. I'm not sure who it was, but when I saw it, I said, "Oh, that's Mama's cake," and I want to know who ate the cake too. I want to know just as bad as you, Mama. So I'm gonna go upstairs and I'm gonna pray and read my Bible, and when God reveals it unto me who ate the cake, I'm gonna come down. And I'm gonna tell you.
But she has a dog right there too. Like, you could have just blamed it on the dog. Like, who ate the cakes? Oh, the dog ate the cakes.
So I
like, you could have blamed it on anything.
I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna talk to.
This was years and years and years ago. When I was in a different relationship, and my girlfriend at the time had her nephew come and stay with us for a few weeks out the summer, and we were in South Carolina. Her nephew was from New York, and so he comes down. Yo, smoke. So he comes down and he's this big, husky, heavyset little kid. Yo, he's like 12 years old, but he's big as me already. It's like, what the fuck, little kid? You know, he has this New York kid attitude, and it's like, calm down, man. You're in the South now. And I remember one day, yo, like I say, he was staying with us for a couple weeks, and I got up one morning, and I had a dog. I had a house dog at the time. And I go in the kitchen just to get like a little quick snack. It was early in the morning. It was breakfast time. So I was going to go in there and just heat me up like some toaster strudels. I look in the damn freezer. Ain't no fucking toaster strudels in there. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, damn, yo. I just brought 2 boxes of toaster strudels. I look in the damn trash can. They 2 empty boxes of toaster strudels in there. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this little fat fucker ate 2 boxes of toaster strudels? 2 boxes? That's like 8 toaster strudels. So I said, hey, man. I said, you ate all them toaster strudels? He said, no. I was gonna eat some, and I ate 2. And then I was going to eat 2 more. And then, so I had set it on the table, and then the dog ate it. And I was like, dang, the dog ate my toaster strudel. So I went to go get 2 more, and I set it down again because I forgot my juice in the kitchen. And then the dog ate them too. And you know what? I'm thinking to myself, listen to him tell me this story, how the dog... So you let the dog get 2 sets of toaster strudels away from you, right? You set it down twice, and the dog ate it twice. And this is my dog, a well-trained dog by the heavy hand of discipline. That's just how I'm pretty sure. And I watch all these tactical dog trainers, and the dog stays between their legs and walks on their side, goes here and sits, and they're like cop dog trainers. And I'm pretty sure they don't beat their dogs into submission. I wasn't taught no other way. I get a newspaper. Yeah, you get a little puppy. They do what you don't want them to do. Pop, hey, don't do that, doggy. You know what I'm saying? So my dog was trained enough. That motherfucker never ate off the table. Never. Never, ever, ever. That dog was probably the best dog I ever had. That motherfucker was smart as shit. Didn't take a lot of beating. Motherfucker just caught on quick with treats. That's how you can normally teach them, with the treats. And when the treats don't work, you get that newspaper and like, motherfucker, I said, sit, bitch. You know what I'm saying? And show your dominance to the animal. So I know for a fact my dog never ate off the fucking table. She just didn't. She knew better. She knew better. But this little motherfucker telling me that she got him twice off the table. I'm like, all right, dude. But that was a good lie. At least he didn't say, oh, some white man broke in here and ate all the toaster strudels. You know what I'm saying? If somebody broke in, I think somebody may have broke in and ate 2 boxes of toaster strudels. And it was a white man. You know, little black kid's not gonna even say that shit at all. But this little white girl said, oh, who ate all the cookies? Oh, a black man. But you got a dog right there behind you, little girl. Just blame it on the dog. You could have just said, yo, the dog ate it.
The Lord for you. Okay? So you just...
She ain't want to blame the dog.
And I'm going to go and read my Bible. And I'm going to pray, and I'm going to ask the God to let me know, you know, who ate the cake. And when he does, I'm going to come straight to you, and I'm going to tell you who ate the cake. And when you find out, I want you to remember who it was. So I can be merciful, read who took the baby that, you know.
Loves you more than anyone else? Credit card companies. Need to buy something? Credit card companies are right there for you. Whatever you want, with a bunch of rewards and points and...
Alright. So that was some funny shit. Now let's listen to my man Michael Harrison.
Recently, I received a text message from my sprinkler system. I repeat, from my home sprinkler system. Apparently, it had been in communication with the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration with regard to the weather forecast for an area around my home. This got me to thinking about artificial intelligence. For most of us, or many of us, the idea behind artificial intelligence was suggested to us by the 1968 film 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Where Hal?
One of the characters was called Hal, and he was a super intelligent computer who was also in charge of the entire space.
Oh, this is a black scientist. Just to let you know. Neil deGrasse Tyson isn't the only scientist. Then we got my man, oh, I forgot the black engineer, the dude who made, yo. Lonnie Johnson. I don't know why I always forget Mr. Johnson's name, yo, but Lonnie Johnson. So, yo, Lonnie Johnson is a fucking genius, and he's basically Elon Musk. He's like the black Elon Musk, but since he's black, he just doesn't get as much funding. He doesn't. I don't know. It's weird being, you know, at the level that he is and not being able to actually accomplish everything and bring all your ideas into fruition because you lack the funding and support, but other motherfuckers just just get all the shit they want for their companies and shit. You know what I'm saying? He even went through it like way back in the day with one of his products that he put on the market, and motherfuckers basically tried to not give him his share of the profits off of that shit. And he was like, yo, he fucking had to go to court for that shit for a couple years before he got paid off for that shit. He's like, yo, it's my fucking patent. Y'all motherfuckers owe me for that shit. You know what I'm saying? So Lonnie Johnson, super smart black engineer, yo. Michael Harrison, another fucking super smart ass black scientist, yo. Yo, my aunt is a fucking super smart fucking, you might as well say it's science. She's a civil engineer for Boeing, and she does contract work for the NSA and shit like that. Yo, like my aunt is on some shit like the RFID chip. Like she was a part of that program back in the day to shrink the size of the chip down to smaller than a grain of rice. And then she like the last two Boeings that came on market, like Boeing put out 2 new designs, I think in like the past 20 years, past couple decades. Because a lot of planes, believe it or not, yo, these shits are old as fuck. Some of the same planes are like from the fucking 60s and 70s and shit. But these motherfuckers are really trying to update their planes. And like, so a couple years ago, Boeing put out some newer shit. I think it was I know they're famous for their 747, and it was a 3-number plane or some shit like that. But my aunt, she was head over the department that developed basically all of the electronic communication systems for the new Boeing jetliner. And like she led the department over that shit. It was mostly electrical engineering, but there was other aspects that she had firsthand development with. So y'all know some super smart ass motherfuckers, yo. So we're gonna listen to Michael Harris talk about artificial intelligence. Today we are gonna continue to try to get some more layers of paint on this canvas here. We just been working on that blue for a while. My palette is loaded with blues right now, but I really do need to put a second layer. Oh, that is too. I need to put a third layer on the red, on the skull and on his pants. Add some more details to that before I jump back into those blues. I may actually just pull out a different palette and throw some reds and some whites on a different palette and just leave that one palette loaded up with the blues right now. And then we have one more piece in this series. The canvas is already prepped. It has one layer of paint on it. After that, I think I'm going to go back to my Big Hair series and work with Creative Soul Photographies, some of their material. Again, if you're familiar with my work, the two black girls that I did with the really big hairstyles. The one girl was in this very formal, regal looking jacket with a chrome shoulder pad, and she had this humongous afro. And the second piece was another very elaborate hairstyle with a giant braid, a headdress, and a very, very detailed, elaborate Oriental style garment that the girl was wearing. Yo, Frankie. So those two are in the Big Hair series. That series is scheduled for 3 pieces. I've just taken a hiatus on it and completed a few other pieces in between. And so now I think after this series, I'll go back to the Big Hair series and add the final installment to that one. So that trilogy will be wrapped up, and then start on something else. There's maybe 1 or 2 just off shoot paintings that I've been thinking about playing around with. I like doing like one-off paintings just to see how I feel about them. And sometimes they'll turn into a series, and sometimes they'll just, be a standalone painting. So I think I want to do some more still lifes, and actually like some high detailed drawings that would cost a lot. Like normally I'll give away drawings. Those are prizes that I like to give away. Just quick sketches, maybe a 2 hours drawing. You know what I'm saying? And I don't feel damaged by if I take 2 hours to do a pretty decent sketch and just give it to somebody. But I want to do a really detailed drawing, and put some hours into it, and price it accordingly, at maybe, a $800-900 drawing or something. And because drawings are easy to frame, you can put them in glass and they look nice, and they're small, and you can set them up on your desk and different things like that. So definitely be on the lookout for some Tilt work coming up for me soon. Got to get back onto my Patreon channel and doing drawing instructions and tutorials on Patreon. Haven't done any in a while, just for the simple fact that I've been moving for the past month. But now that I'm set up and in the new studio and everything, I actually have room for a drafting board or a drawing board. So I might actually get one of those. Hey, good morning. I might get me a nice drafting table and set up in here so I can really feel comfortable when I'm drawing. I don't have like the perfect table to draw on, actually. So, but yeah, definitely gonna be uploading more videos to Patreon, exclusive content that will not be seen on YouTube. So if you guys want like more in-depth lessons on drawing, because it's weird, because people think like, and I tell this all the time about why I set up Patreon. Most people like my personality, and I find that awesome. I find that amazing, because we like to talk and sit here and chat and discuss and debate and converse and just talk shit, And then when I focus on the art, I lose a lot of viewers and the audience slims down, and there's only a very few hardcore viewers and subscribers who actually want to sit and watch me paint. And there's even fewer who want to see me start a project from beginning. And so throughout the years, I've just cut out different parts of what I actually do on camera to try to keep it more entertaining and more lively for everybody. So most of the times I don't even start canvases, I don't even start drawings or anything on camera, because it's so tedious and I have to focus, and so I'm not able to talk to the audience as much, and most people don't care to watch that part. So, and it's all good though, and it doesn't really bother me. So, and like I say, plus I think the lessons that I offer are actually worth it. If you just you can just donate $1 a month to have access to the extra content. And if you, like I said, you can see me do drawings from beginning to end. I try to explain and describe in detail what I'm doing, and I'm getting better at it, because the Patreon videos are pre-recorded. So I'm having to learn a lot of editing effects, and I know you do. I need to learn like how to edit better and become a little bit better of a videographer, I don't know, it's such a complicated creative process, because I want to do more, but the more you want to do, the more you need to know how to do the shit. So I wanted to take better photographs so I can have a better picture to paint from. So I had to learn how to use a real camera and get good with using the camera, which is not as easy as people think it is. Now I want to make shorter videos for more, for more condensed content in a shorter time span. And how can I arrange that and have a middle, beginning, and ending, and try to do it within 30 minutes and have it edited right, sounding right, maybe with an intro and music. I've started doing like some time-lapse videos where you can watch 30-40 minutes of footage, in a minute and a half or something like that. So I'm trying to figure out all that stuff as well, which is pretty fun though, which is pretty fun.
I'm a junior at Grand Canyon University studying marketing. I am the account manager here at the Student Ad Agency, in which students have the opportunity to work with clients. We're getting real world experience.
Wow, that water is extra cold, like extra cold. There's a glacier in here? What the fuck is that?
Text message from my sprinkler system. I repeat, from my home sprinkler system. Apparently, it had been in communication with the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric with regard to the weather forecast for an area around my home. This got me to thinking about artificial intelligence. For most of us, or many of us, the idea behind artificial intelligence was suggested to us by the 1968 film 2001: A Space Odyssey. One of the characters was called Hal, and he was a super intelligent computer who was also in charge of the entire spacecraft, so everything was connected to him. So he was interacting with the crew through natural language processing. In 1968, we didn't have the technology to build anything that could do that, but the pieces are beginning to fall into place. Artificial intelligence can be defined as behavior from a machine, which from a human being would require intelligence. So what we're looking at is the process of training machines to behave in ways that appear intelligent to us. So there are three kinds of artificial intelligence we can talk about. The first is narrow intelligence, which is what we see now. Self-driving cars, or the Siri interface on the iPhone. The bits and pieces to build something like HAL is starting to appear in reality. The next step would be strong artificial intelligence. Strong AI is defined as a machine that's generally as intelligent as a human being. So not only could it drive your car, it could also make pancakes for you in the morning. It could also do your taxes. So a very general machine, capable of doing a lot of different intelligent tasks for you. And lastly, there's super strong AI. Under super strong AI, we begin to see machines that are improving themselves, that are redesigning their hardware and software, and are beginning to present to you solutions to problems that you have never brought to the machine. So one of the things that occurred to me is that AI is no longer in the future. It's here. Much of the infrastructure that we need to build AI machines is starting to appear in our commercial applications, but specifically the internet. The internet is a global communications network that forms the fabric that underlies tying all of these machines together. The internet was designed by the Defense Department to be very robust, so that you could attack bits and pieces of the internet, but you could never turn it off. The other side of that is the internet doesn't have an off switch. Now, if you watch as many science fiction movies as I do, you have reason for concern when you start creating intelligent machines that do not have an off switch. The latest thing that we've seen is the smartphone. This is a machine that didn't exist a few years ago, but now there are more than 1 billion people who are becoming dependent on their iPhone or their smartphone. Some people are never more than 4 feet away from their phone all day. So I'm thinking about what are the impacts of this? If we think about the economic impacts, they are worthy of thought and contemplation. If we think about the transportation industry, there are over 3 million people who work in the transportation industry in the United States alone. In less than 10 years, the insurance companies are going to realize that it is cheaper to insure a self-driving car than to insure a car that's driven by a human being. If we look further, we think not only is it going to be the blue-collar world, it's also going to involve driving over 3 million people who work in the transportation industry in the United States alone. In less than 10 years, the insurance companies are going to realize that it is cheaper to insure a self-driving car than to insure a car that's driven by a human being. If we look further, we think not only is it going to be the blue-collar world, it's also going to impact the white-collar world. IBM already has a machine called Watson, whose job is to read papers on cancer research. So it's looking at research papers globally in all sorts of different languages, and it's used as a consultant. So a doctor will type in the presentation of a patient's symptoms, and it will consult with them on the proper diagnosis and possible treatment plans. So Watson can give your doctor advice based on a paper published yesterday in Italian. No human being will ever be able to keep up with that type of system. And right now, that's still defined as a narrow artificially intelligent system. So going from medical, it's even going to hit the creative arena. We already have software that writes music that you've heard. If you listen to commercials and you listen to documentaries, very often some of that music has been written by machines. Recently, someone completed a motion picture and they decided to use an artificially intelligent machine to make the trailer for the movie. So they showed the machine 100 trailers from other movies, and then they showed the machine the entire motion picture, and it created the trailer that's currently running on TV and on the internet to advertise a movie called Morgan. So all aspects of our economy are going to be impacted. One of my concerns is that these systems do not fail gracefully. If we look at training versus coding, the old days you got in front of the machine and you typed in and you told the computer exactly what to do. Today you train your machine, meaning if you want to teach a machine to make pancakes, you let it watch 100 people make pancakes and it will figure out how to do that. The problem with training is that you're never quite sure what you've trained the machine to do. So even though it performs at 99.9% accuracy, you never know when it's going to make a mistake and do something embarrassing or counterintuitive to your intentions. So this creates the challenge of training. How do you train a machine to accurately do what you want and not do things you don't want?
Machine learning. A
few years ago, a Tesla Model S made a left turn through an 18-wheel truck. Sadly, there was a fatality involved. The car mistook the side of the truck for the sky, because at that moment in time, they happened to be the same color. So the problem I'm calling attention to is the fact that it's hard for an engineer to sit in his or her office and imagine all possible situations that would be clear to a human being, but very confusing to an artificial intelligence. So what can happen beyond that? We're thinking about a situation we called the singularity. The singularity will occur when we have an artificially intelligent machine that is producing improvements to itself that no human being knows about or understands. At that point, we become vulnerable. You can imagine there are going to be impacts, and one of them is actually very good. It's called utopia. Imagine a world where no human being ever has to do anything for work that they're not interested in. Imagine a world where technology and medical benefits accrue to you for free. The machines are doing it all. That's the utopia part. But now imagine a system failure. Let's imagine the power grid goes down, the traffic lights stop working, the telephone system stops working.
Oh shit.
If you imagine you've been in this utopian state for 25 years, there may not be a human being alive who has any idea why the power just went off. And that's a risk that we take as we move forward that I think we need to give some contemplation to. Why the power just went off. The lights stopped working. The telephone system stopped. Genes are doing anything for work that they're not interested in. Imagine a world where technology and medical benefits accrue to you for for free. The machines are doing it all. That's the utopia part. But now imagine a system failure. Let's imagine the power grid goes down, the traffic lights stop working, the telephone system stops working. If you imagine you've been in this utopian state for 25 years, there may not be a human being alive who has any idea why the power just went on. And that's a risk that we take as we move forward that I think we need to give some contemplation to. Artificial intelligence is going to redesign our world. It's going to have economic impacts, and it's going to have effects on the human condition that we currently cannot predict. Did I mention there's no off switch? So I'm looking at, we as a society have to think about what safeguards do we need to put in place to make sure that this technology is tremendously beneficial to us without creating the risk that may be profoundly detrimental. It's my sprinkler system. He's all excited, so I think I'm going to have to take this. Thank you for your attention.
Where's the world headed in the next 5 years, and what can you actually do about it? We already have the technology to read the inner voice in your mind, so imagine controlling your phone with your inner thoughts, writing your report without a keyboard, playing video games without a controller, or walking into stores that already know what you want to buy. Imagine seeing the world with augmented reality and commuting a bit safer, working a bit faster, exercising in a way that's actually fun. What if we could restore someone's ability to walk, give someone the sense of touch, enhance eyesight, fight disease, or modify DNA? What happens when robots start building our homes, delivering our news, pouring our beers, and driving us home? These are not examples of the far distant future. These are examples of what is possible right now. And with artificial intelligence, the pace of human progress is about to become not so human at all. So how much is your world about to change? At Trend Hunter, we spend a lot of time thinking about this because we use artificial intelligence, big data, and human researchers to help about 600 of the world's leading brands, billionaires, CEOs, and NASA to predict and create the future. And so far, we've worked on about 10,000 projects. We've learned a lot of insight that I think could help you, and that's what I want to talk about today. Today, I want to reshape the way that you think about your future. So let's do this. Are you ready? When we dive into the super future, there's one particular category that jumps out a lot. And if I was to tell you of all of our mega trends, the one that you need to study much more deeply, even if you don't today, the one that impacts you in every possible industry, your life, your kids, it is artificial intelligence. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper than I did last year, and today I'm going to talk about what I call the AI mechanized future, which is more specifically what happens when you start combining AI with interface, mind reading, bioenhancement, 3D printing, sustainability, and robots. Does that sound like fun? Yeah. Okay. And if it gets scary, I always like to just put up some dancing robots, so just so you know, there's some psychological decompression going on. We hear the word AI, and there's a little bit of a misunderstanding. There's a couple things about it. First of all, we only say that something is AI when it's brand new. AI already exists and is prevalent in our life in a lot of different ways, from the recommendations when you swipe left or right to your entire news feed, and how that nicely shows you just the things that align to your own political beliefs. But if you really want to understand where our world's going, there's 3 terms you want to add to your cocktail vocabulary, and basically that is to no longer just say AI, but to think of ANI, AGI, and ASI. So first of all, we see AI already in a lot of different ways that you heard mentioned today in different keynotes. There's personal assistants, there's lawyers, doctors, autonomous drivers, investors, facial recognition, all that wonderful stuff. but it's already been around for some amount of time already. So we're not going to get too deep in it, because where I'm going to really be pushing in the super future is what happens in 7 to 15 years from now when we reach artificial general intelligence. Artificial general intelligence is the idea that one system could actually do pretty much anything that a human could. So it's not having a specialist AI doctor over here, or an AI lawyer over here that's all a different robot. It's one system that you can almost interact with like a human that could help you in any potential way. As we start to get smarter and try to think about how our systems are developed, there's one cartoon I saw that really helps articulate it the best. And it's that right now we see AI happening and we're like looking at it thinking, wow, that funny robot can do, monkey tricks. And we think about AI kind of in that world. What we're not really prepared for is to understand that 7 to 15 years from now, we will reach a day where AI reaches the level of what you might consider a dumb human. And you'll still be like, oh, it's not bad, but it still makes mistakes. The weird part is when it reaches that particular day, the next day it reaches the level of Einstein, and the day after that is a little bit different. And this is particularly why AI is the most important thing for each of you to study, even if you might not consider yourself a technologist, because this sort of works every aspect of human life. The factors that limit or accelerate us getting to AGI would be power, data, and intelligence. The first two are really simple, the third one is more complex. Just to put it in perspective, the IBM Summit is already much, much faster and more complex than what a human brain could do in possibly every single way. So this idea of power and performance has already been solved. To put it this way, if every person on the Earth completed one calculation per second, everyone on Earth, all 7 billion of us, one calculation per second, it would take us 305 days to catch up to what the Summit could do in a single second. So the best way to kind of internalize that this is not what is impeding us from getting to AI. That's kind of why I put that there. When it comes to data, imagine that more data was created in this year than in the last 5,000 years, but humans have only been able to analyze 0.5% of it. So data is also not the limiter to AI reaching artificial general intelligence. In fact, if you were a computer with AI capabilities plugged into the internet today, you would have every language, fact, Wikipedia page, math, formula, physics equation, bioengineering feed, piece of news, trending data, market best practice, neuropsychological insight on how to manipulate and persuade people, and every hack email, and about 7 billion emails so far, every stock market technical info, and every person in this room, if not. That's a lot of data, so AI is not limited by that. So really, the only mystery that's trying to be solved is how to make a system that could teach itself more intelligently. And effectively, there are people trying in every possible category. Some are trying to recreate what a human brain's exact structure might look like. Some are hoping that training a computer to train a computer to train a computer gets us to a further spot. And in short, billions and billions of dollars this year is being poured into the attempts to get to this feat alone. So, with that said then, let's just note that artificial superintelligence is, if you fast forward a little bit more, it's very difficult to imagine that 10 or 15 years from now, you have a human-like computer that can do everything we can do at paces that are millions of times faster, with access to every piece of information instantly. That's a very difficult thing to comprehend. But once a system's at that level and it's training itself, and you advance another 10 or 20 years, it gets to a part that humans actually can't understand. We can't even get there, and it's uncomfortable. But effectively, at ASI, one system will reign supreme. At that level, pretty much all AI scientists agree there is only one system in the world. So who will make it? Interesting question.
Japan?
But I'm going to skip that part, because right now my computer still can't recognize where my printer is. So I think we're all right. Our robot dystopia isn't here yet. So that said, let's start diving into the combinations, because this is where it gets really fun. I'm going to show you examples of things that are available right now, and that will have your imagination going wild for what happens when everything really starts to combine and accelerate. There are robots that can take your trash out, finally. Robot bartenders, my kind of robot. entire bars serviced by robot bartenders. There's a number of different applications of receptionists, from hotels to malls to airports. Domino's Pizza, our lovely client of about 9 years, has a Domino's AI robot for pizza delivery, and they also have drones. There are also robots that can take your order instead of you having
Pizza
to talk to
drones
someone, in a fast food restaurant. Farmers are using robots that can actually harvest, identify what's happening in the crop, survey the landscape, and then much more efficiently pick the optimal times for harvest. And that leads us to robotic bees, which are being studied in some sense to figure out what happens if we lose the bees. And NASA actually recently had a contract to make a bee-like size figure that would go to Mars to be able to inspect around with a ton of small, low-cost bees. This might lead you to think there's also military applications that are happening, and that's where I would say this is kind of a dancing robot to make you feel comfortable, but it probably doesn't. So I'll just more simply wrap up the robot part by saying, what robot would you like to help you with your job? Nice and easy one. All right, let's ante it up. Next up, we start talking about interface, how we interact with the machine. In our minds, we tend to think it's going to be a humanoid, though it's not necessarily going to be that. Though, as you saw in the Volvo example earlier in one of our presentations, even the little kids pointed out that if you have a robot that you can know which way it's looking, it makes us humans feel a lot more comfortable. So based on that, we've seen everything from virtual Instagram influencers, which were in Gil's presentation, to Erica. Erica is an AI robot, but more importantly, I would think of her as the epitome of a project in the works where there's an entire team of people trying to make her better. I'm going to show you a video of her, but she's interactive, autonomous, has depth perception, facial recognition, fully interactive, knows when you walk in the room, and is a sum of everything that we currently know in AI put in a humanoid form. Here's her thoughts on what it's like to be Erica.
I believe robots like me will be very important in the future because it will be possible to automate the uninteresting and tedious parts of life so people can focus on the creative and fulfilling things. I think that robots are almost like the children of humanity. You are the ones who create us, guide us, and teach us about the world. And in return, I hope we can help you with your work, take care of you when you are old and sick, and help to make society a little bit better for everyone.
I think you could remix that with a different music and a different voice and scare the hell out of me, just to be clear. That's Erica. Now, any fans of Westworld in the room? Anyone watch Westworld? So Westworld wanted to make their own sort of version of Erica, but being a Hollywood movies production company, they actually wanted to make something more realistic, using all the Hollywood makeup techniques, and then they put him in a bar to see how he would do at launching their next episode series, while also seeing how people interact with them. And here's what happened.
What are your thoughts on the impending humanoid robot invasion?
Shivers down my spine a little bit. I don't know, very strange. My first experience of talking to a robot, I guess.
We joined it for a drink, and it was quite a bizarre experience. A little bit creepy, actually. I can't say I really liked it.
Amazing, and I think one day they may take over these robots. Who knows?
Just stare at that. Just take that in. And when we ask you for your beer next, are you really comfortable with us at all now? So instead, you'll just have to settle for robots right now that can play ping pong with you, making currently the most boring ping pong game ever played. A number of you probably already saw this. This is the one thing I almost hesitated to put in because it's a little bit viral, but it's also probably the most impactful example of interface to watch and think of in the context of this day you've had talking about the future.
So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around?
At 12 p.m.
We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for?
Just a woman's haircut for now.
Okay, we have a 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. is fine.
Okay, what's her first name?
The first name is Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. Have a great day. Bye.
Give it up for Google. Hey,
Yo, that was
because here we're still creeped out, but
yeah, and I listened to that. I listened to that phone call, and they also have another one where they're ordering food. That was a fucking computer asking for an appointment to get a haircut. Oh, this is an advertisement. You can't rewind that. Yo, yeah, that shit was a fucking computer calling for a haircut. And the motherfucker on the other end really did not, it doesn't appear as if they knew.
Progress with the assistant. As I said earlier, our vision for our assistant is to help you get things done. It turns out a big part of getting things done is making a phone call. You may want to get an oil change schedule. The business's line booking system set up to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant to make you a haircut appointment line booking system set up. We think AI can help with this problem. So let's go back to this example. Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
Yo, that is scary as fuck, yo.
How can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a woman's haircut for a client.
That's fucking
I'm
Google,
looking for
yo.
on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second.
That fucking shit right there, that's the fucking scary part. Those little teeny nuances, they're getting too fucking good at this shit, yo. That shit is, I'm like, what the fuck? Yo, and then they called a Chinese restaurant or something to order some food, yo. And this is today. So just imagine 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You gonna have telemarketers calling you, man, you ain't gonna know who the fuck that shit is. You can call a 1-800 number or whatever, and you really think you're really talking to somebody, and it's not. This shit is, we're gonna see so much more change in our lifetime in the next 20 years. It's gonna be fucking ridiculous. And our kids and our grandkids are just gonna be born into this highly technocratic society where it's normal to them. And we're gonna be like fossils, yo. That shit is weird as shit, like how fast it's developing. There wasn't that big of a difference between my parents' generation. Well, it really is, because everybody saw it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody saw the rise of the internet. My mom understands what the internet is. I'm the last generation to know pre-internet. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's just different now. These kids don't know what it's like not to have Wi-Fi and apps and shit like that. And now, like, Google is already good enough to fucking fake people with language. Like, fucking language. That shit is crazy. Yo. Alright, one more time, yo.
To schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
How can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a a woman's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now. Okay, we have at 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks, great. Have a great day. Bye.
That was a real call you just heard. The amazing thing is the assistant can actually understand the nuances of conversation. We've been working on this technology for many years. It's called Google Duplex. It brings together all our investments over the years in natural language understanding, deep learning, text-to-speech. By the way, when we are done, the assistant can give you a confirmation notification saying your appointment has been taken care of. Let me give you another example. Let's say you want to call a restaurant, but maybe it's a small restaurant which is not easily available to book online. The call actually goes a bit differently than expected. So take a listen.
How may I help you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
4 people with
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually we reserve for like after like 5 people. For people you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
For when tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday, the 7th.
Oh no, it's not too busy. You can come for 4 people, okay?
Oh, I gotcha. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Again, that was a real call. We have many of these examples where the calls quite don't go as expected, but the assistant understands the context, the nuance. It knew to ask for wait times in this case and handle the interaction gracefully. Look,
Yeah.
Welcome to Google I/O. Thank you for joining us. We are at an important inflection point in computing, and it's exciting to be driving technology.
Yeah, that shit is fucking crazy.
I saved money with Liberty Mutual's customized insurance. Some of it went towards a family trip. I can't say where.
All right, guys, we're going to listen to some very, very deep information right here. I don't know if a lot of people are prepared or even, conscious or emotionally stable enough to handle some of the content that I'm going to be listening to here shortly. So if you're kind of faint of heart and or you're just like a really boring fuddy-duddy, then you might want to get off the stream right now. It's evolving so quickly. Yo, in a couple years, we ain't gonna be able to keep up with this shit. Even me. Cause I be seeing trends and hearing about stuff like, I don't know, man. I used to be up on everything before everybody else. Now motherfuckers come to me with shit like, word? They did what? I'm slowing. Yo, you can't keep up with all this stuff, man. All these new developments, all the new technologies and everything coming out. You know what I'm saying? Shit. I used to be the man on fucking video games and video game consoles and all that shit. Now, man, even the technology for that is growing and developing so rapidly, I can't keep up with all that shit, man. But it's all good. You just gotta evolve with the times.
In the video game industry, countless companies have come and gone, but one company has managed to outlast its competition at nearly every turn: Nintendo. For over 3 decades, Nintendo has beaten its rivals by pursuing its own singular vision of bold hardware innovations and games of unmatched creativity. It hasn't always been smooth sailing, though. Along the way, Nintendo's choices as a company have thrilled and baffled gamers. But through all their ups and downs, Nintendo's impact on the industry simply cannot be overstated. Amazingly, Nintendo might never have been so successful if it weren't for one character: Popeye. Yes, that Popeye. In the late 19th century in Kyoto, Japan, artist Fusajiro Yamauchi had developed great skill at the making and painting of hanafuda, Japanese playing cards that were intricately detailed with beautiful and colorful imagery. By 1894, Yamauchi opened up his own hanafuda manufacturing business. He called his new company Nintendo Koppai. Nintendo roughly translates as "leave luck to heaven," a great expression when playing games of chance. The company's cards became so popular that Yamauchi had to hire assistants to help him move from handmade hanafuda to mass production. In 1929, Yamauchi's son-in-law, Sekiro, took over the business. One of Sekiro's most important acts was the creation of Nintendo's own distribution network, a vital piece of the puzzle that would serve the company well over the next several decades. By 1949, his great-grandson Hiroshi took over and began to move it into the modern era. While business for the company was going smoothly, something happened to Yamauchi during a visit to the United States that changed Nintendo forever. Author Jeff Ryan's 2011 book, Super Mario...
Why did I press that button?
How Nintendo Conquered America, provides an in-depth account of Nintendo's beginnings. As the book describes, Yamauchi took a meeting with Disney executives to license their characters for Nintendo cards. Seeing the vastness of Disney's empire firsthand revealed just how huge a global entertainment company could become. Yamauchi knew he would never settle for less than worldwide success. In an interview with Machinima, author Jeff Ryan explains that Yamauchi's coming of age, as Japan lost the Second World War, gave the man a hard edge, one that would drive him in business for the rest of his life.
He came out of World War II, and he was from the Japanese side, so he was one of the... It was the whole greatest generation thing mixed in with the fact that his side had lost, and he was running his grandfather's company, and he needed to make a lot of tough decisions. And for about 30 years, he was making decisions that didn't quite play out. But every time he tried something, he would learn from the failure. Mostly he would learn, well, we don't do that again.
In 1963, the business's name changed to simply the Nintendo Company Limited, a move reflecting its expansion into other ventures. However, the company's card-making experience helped it break into one business: toys. Author Jeff Ryan explains how Nintendo transitioned from cards to toys with the help of its existing distribution network.
trading cards kept on making money, but it was a small amount of money. He realized that there was a distribution network that was valuable beyond just the cards that they were selling, because that allowed him, if he wanted to make a toy, he could get it into every toy store in Japan, which was something that a normal toy manufacturer starting from scratch can't do.
Its first toy was the Ultra Hand, an extendable arm invented by Gunpei Yokoi, a maintenance worker from Nintendo's card-making factories. Yokoi had originally created the Ultra Hand for his own amusement, but Yamauchi saw Yokoi's potential. The toy went to market in 1970, selling 1.2 million units. Nintendo was officially in the toy business. Other products followed, Yokoi's creativity leading the charge. The 10 billion barrel was an innovative marble puzzle, while the Love Tester was an electronic passion measuring device that could only come from Japan. Through the 70s, Nintendo also tested Japan's video game market, releasing arcade games and Pong-clone TV consoles. In 1979, they scored their biggest hit, Radar Scope, a Space Invaders imitator. In 1980, Nintendo released another Yokoi invention, the handheld Game & Watch. Inspired by the LCD screens of pocket calculators, Yokoi's invention was simple but addictive, and kept Nintendo heading towards the electronic entertainment business. That year, Yamauchi sought expansion into America. To set up Nintendo's American branch, the chairman tapped son-in-law Minoru Arakawa, who was living in Vancouver with Yamauchi's daughter, Yoko. The Arakawas set up shop at a warehouse in Elizabeth, New Jersey. To get the ball rolling, their first game would be their Japanese hit, Radar Scope. 3,000 cabinets shipped from Japan. Arakawa's attempts to sell the game didn't go well. He only managed to move a third of their supply, leaving about 2,000 machines sitting in the warehouse. Worse, Radar Scope wasn't scoring well with the arcade owners, who preferred games from proven names like Namco or the Arcade King, Atari. The fledgling Nintendo of America had only broken even on the venture so far. They needed a new, inexpensive game, and soon. While his father-in-law looked at his staff in Kyoto for ideas, the Arakawas moved back to the Pacific Northwest. Yamauchi was no fool. He knew better than to commit too many resources to what was turning into a losing proposition. So instead of pulling one of Nintendo's proven designers from other projects, he solicited ideas from his entire company, hoping to make an unexpected discovery within his company. Discover he did. Shigeru Miyamoto, a 29-year-old staff artist, piqued Yamauchi's interest. Miyamoto was teamed with Gunpei Yokoi, who would help turn the new designer's ideas into reality. The two would use a conversion kit to transform those unsold radar scopes into something new. But before they began, they hit a snag. Yamauchi's wanted to base a game on a popular character to spur sales. It just so happened that a new Hollywood movie based on Popeye was in production. And 20 years earlier, Nintendo had released a ramen product based on the spinach-eating sailor. Yamauchi believed acquiring the rights would be a cinch, but weren't available after all. Miyamoto was undeterred. Already on course for a great new game, all he had to do was tweak the characters a bit. Olive Oil was made into the generic lady, while Bluto devolved into the giant, stubborn ape he always resembled. And Popeye would leave the Navy and become a carpenter. That love triangle featured in Popeye's cartoons and comic strips informed these new characters, and set players off on a quest to rescue the damsel in distress. The story of the new game was a great hook, but no one would pump quarters into a game that didn't play well. Fortunately, Miyamoto happened to be a game designing genius, a fact no one, not even himself, had realized until he'd gotten the job. Gone was Radar Scope's derivative alien shooting mechanic. This new game wouldn't have any shooting at all. Instead, players would have to direct the in-game avatars safely up a construction site to rescue the kidnapped lady, jumping over barrels and finding scattered hammers to clear away threats. This new Jumpman, as Miyamoto called him, offered a new way to play, and the development team knew it would be special. As for the game's title, Miyamoto looked to Japan and America's shared history of gigantic movie monsters. King Kong, of course, was the biggest ape around. But this was no king. This ape was not only stubborn, but like Bluto, pretty stupid. More like an ass. Or a donkey. Donkey Kong had a name. But they still needed names for the other two characters. Lady would be named Pauline, in thanks to their kind warehouse manager Don James, whose wife's name was Polly. The game's hero, however, was named after the warehouse's owner, James's hot-headed boss, Mario Siegel. Arakawa and his small team started hand-converting radar scope cabinets to Donkey Kong machines. In 1981, Arakawa put the test machines in 2 Seattle bars, and they took off like Radar Scope never did. The machines earned more than $30 a day in quarters, prompting Arakawa to install more machines. Soon enough, the cabinets each made Nintendo $200 a week. Arakawa and his team converted the rest of the 2,000 Radar Scope cabinets by hand, and began manufacturing hundreds of new Donkey Kong machines to keep up with the growing demand. Soon enough, there were 60,000 Donkey Kong machines in operation throughout North America that year. Nintendo had arrived, and it was all thanks to the inspiration of Popeye the Sailor and Miyamoto's genius. Nintendo exploded onto the arcade scene and brought success Yamauchi had known would one day be his. But in addition to growing into a bigger business, Nintendo had also grown into a bigger target. As 1981 drew to a close, over 60,000 Donkey Kong arcade cabinets dotted North America. By 1982, Nintendo manufactured up to 50 cabinets per day. In its first year in the US, Donkey Kong earned $180 million for Nintendo. In its next year, the barrel-throwing ape earned another $100 million, launching Nintendo into the video game stratosphere. In July 1982, Nintendo of America bought 27 acres in Redmond, saying goodbye to the warehouse in Tukwila, Washington, that was owned by Jumpman's namesake Mario Siegel. Riding high on Donkey Kong's success, Nintendo was gearing up to bring the arcade into customers' homes. But not only would they soon face monkey business in the courtroom, Nintendo would once again face an uphill battle to sell America on its latest product. Soon their success in the States would seem like nothing more than a pipe dream. But sometimes... As Donkey Kong guzzled quarters across America in 1981, its creator Shigeru Miyamoto set up to work on a sequel. In 1982, Nintendo released Donkey Kong Jr., a follow-up as unconventional as its predecessor. Instead of keeping Mario in the position of the hero, Miyamoto decided to cast him as the villain, having cruelly locked Donkey Kong in a cage at the top of the screen. Playing the role of the hero this time was Donkey Kong's son, who climbed vines and chains while dodging toothsome enemies to save his father. Despite the potentially blasphemous switcheroo of making Mario the antagonist, Miyamoto had scored again. Donkey Kong Jr. managed to sell over 30,000 cabinets. Donkey Kong was a force to be reckoned with. The brand's success paved the way for another lucrative opportunity for Nintendo: licensing and merchandising. Console maker Coleco gained the rights to make a home version of the game. And outside of video games, Nintendo found that Donkey Kong's face looked good on everything: board games, stuffed animals, and more. But to MCA Universal, the movie studio behind 1976's King Kong feature film, Donkey Kong simply looked like an ever-growing dollar sign. After countless threats of legal action and after scoring multi-million-dollar settlements with nearly every Donkey Kong license, Universal filed suit against Nintendo on June 26, 1982. The studio alleged that Donkey Kong infringed on their King Kong copyright. The video game maker, however, refused to budge. The case went to trial in early 1983, and Nintendo prevailed with ease. Its lawyers, led by attorney John Kirby, established the many differences between the conflicting Kongs. But if this weren't enough for the judge, Kirby proved that, in fact, Universal hadn't a legal leg to stand on. In 1975, the studio had sued previous King Kong picture maker RKO Pictures, and had itself proven that King Kong was in the public domain. The result of the 75 case cleared the way for Universal's 76 film remake. It also caused the judge to throw the suit against Nintendo out of court in '83. Nintendo had taken on the powerhouses of American entertainment and emerged victorious. While Nintendo of America defended itself in court, Nintendo in Japan had released its next big product, the Nintendo Family Computer, or the Famicom. According to Jeff Ryan's Super Mario: How Nintendo Conquered America, Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi had the Famicom in the works for years. The 8-bit home console featured 2 wired controllers with raised directional pads and 2-face buttons, a design that had originated with Gunpei Yokai's Game & Watch. In July 1983, the Famicom was released in Japan with ports of Nintendo's American hits: Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., and the game that finally realized Yamauchi's vision, Popeye, a title that shared plenty in common with, what else? Donkey Kong. Nintendo finally wrangled the rights to the Sailor Man who had inspired Nintendo's biggest hit. That year, Nintendo sold over 500,000 Famicoms. The next year, it shattered that number by moving 3 million consoles. Nintendo had another hit on its hands, and the next step was to bring it to the US. But there was one problem. In 1983, the American video game market had crashed, a consequence of too many overpriced and underwhelming systems competing with each other. Game developers sprang up like mushrooms, creating unauthorized and often lousy games for the many consoles on the market. By 1984, the idea of a home video game system was anathema to American audiences and retailers alike. Once again, Nintendo of America's president Minoru Arakawa had an uphill battle selling the systems in the States. The fact that, by 1985, the Famicom had sold over 19 million units in Japan didn't impress American retailers, still smarting over the money they'd lost on video games so recently. So instead of trying to sell a game system, why not try to sell a toy? Nintendo tried to hide the console's true nature, packaging it with a toy robot, the Robotic Operating Buddy, or ROB, along with games Gyromite and Stack Up. No one was fooled, and the plan didn't work. Yamauchi ordered Arakawa and his team to sell the systems to New York toy stores personally. Arakawa followed Yamauchi's bidding, but went a step further. According to Ryan's book, Arakawa went over Yamauchi's head, assuring retailers that they could get full refunds on any unsold systems. A gutsy move that could have cost Nintendo dearly. Fortunately, Arakawa's gamble paid off, and 50...
Look at you. The power of the stock market in the palm of your hand. And you know...
1,000 units sold in New York. Similar rollouts in other major cities over the next few months yielded similar results. By 1986, Nintendo was finally able to release the Famicom, now named the Nintendo Entertainment System, nationally. It didn't hurt that it came packed with one of the most incredible games yet, Shigeru Miyamoto's Super Mario Bros. Before Nintendo devoted most of its resources to the Famicom and NES, Miyamoto kept working on arcade games. He had spun Mario off into his own game in 1983. Mario Bros. Took place in a pipe-filled sewer, where the pair worked together to knock out as many turtles and crabs as they could. When Miyamoto was promoted to make Famicom games, he took Mario with him. The result was like nothing seen before. A whole kingdom full of secrets, growth-inducing mushrooms, warp zones, stompable enemies, and, of course, lots of pipes. Super Mario Bros.' 1985 debut was a massive success, driving the system's sales and hooking American gamers in ways the Atari and ColecoVision never could. To date, Super Mario Bros. Is said to have sold more than 40 million copies worldwide, holding the record for the best-selling video game for a full 18 years. Miyamoto kept working, creating another masterpiece inspired by his childhood spent roaming the woods and caves in Kyoto. February 1986's The Legend of Zelda, a questing game, featured even deeper exploration than Super Mario Bros. Clearly, Zelda's grand scope and massive dungeons touched something within gamers, and Nintendo had another hit. Other now legendary games followed, like the lonely, haunting space adventure Metroid, designed by Ikoi. That title blew people's minds with the end-of-game revelation that its silent protagonist, Samus Aran, was actually a woman. However, a console can't survive on first-party games alone. Third-party developers were contracted to develop new titles for the NES, but Nintendo's new machine featured a lockout chip that only Nintendo could supply. The chip drove up the costs of production, and games lacking the chip wouldn't play. Nintendo had control. While the chips ensured quality NES games, the way Nintendo lorded them over its third-party developers guaranteed an unhealthy relationship. In fact, a 1988 chip shortage led to just that. Author Jeff Ryan explains how Nintendo handled the shortage.
Nintendo decided to ration the chips, which was, in a way, the only thing they could do. There's not enough supply to meet the demand, so therefore you only give some to everyone. Now, they gave themselves as many chips in the world, but for something like Konami or Capcom, they wouldn't make more than 100,000 copies of the game, and this is a game that could sell millions. And if Konami or Capcom complained, Nintendo would maybe cut their order even more, so they'd only have 90,000.
Despite Nintendo's strained relationship with third parties, its relationship to gamers was only getting stronger, thanks largely to Shigeru Miyamoto's continued brilliance, though he wasn't infallible. In fact, his 1986 follow-up to the original Super Mario Bros. Never saw release in the United States, as it was deemed too challenging. It had all the familiar hallmarks of the original game, but harder. Some mushrooms made Mario super, but some mushrooms actually killed him. Nintendo of America thought it was more sadistic than satisfying. But Super Mario needed a sequel, so Miyamoto oversaw production on converting another game, Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic, into a new Mario title. Gone was the Mushroom Kingdom and Bowser. In their place was Subcon, a dream world players had to free from the clutches of Wart, an evil frog. And instead of jumping on enemies to stomp them, players could ride them, pick them up, and toss them at other bad guys. Besides the picture on the box, there wasn't much tying the game in with Super Mario. Fortunately for Nintendo, fans were more than happy to explore the world of Subcon. Super Mario Bros. 2 sold over 7 million copies in its 1988 North American debut. Miyamoto still wanted a proper sequel though. His next project was a true continuation for Super Mario that would both bring the game back to its roots while moving the series forward by leaps and bounds. The result was Super Mario Bros. 3. Players encountered the familiar mechanics of jumping and stomping that made the original game so great, while contending with new powers and abilities. Super Mario Bros. 3 was everything people loved about the first game, but better. And in 1989, as its North American debut drew near, Nintendo of America was approached by Universal Pictures, the same studio that had sued them over Donkey Kong's alleged copyright infringements. The studio's plans for a big screen version of the Jetsons was delayed, and they needed a project to appeal to kids around the holidays. The result was The Wizard, a movie starring Fred Savage and Christian Slater, depicting two brothers' journeys across the country on a quest to win a video game tournament. And the game featured at the tournament itself? None other than Super Mario Bros. 3, which made its North American debut in multiplexes across the country. While The Wizard isn't remembered as much more than an afterthought, Super Mario Bros. 3's release in February 1990 found its place in the history books. It was Nintendo's biggest hit yet, selling 18 million copies, and achieving the record for the best-selling video game not bundled with the system. As it began the 1990s, Nintendo had been transformed since its tentative entrance into the video game market a decade before. Instead of simply being a player in the industry, Nintendo practically owned it. The company seemed invincible. But soon enough, Nintendo would discover the price for not playing well with others. By the late 1980s, Nintendo seemed to have sewn up the video game industry across the globe. The Nintendo Entertainment System was a staple of the American family room, and Super Mario was a household name, starring in 3 hit games, several cartoons, and appearing on every product Nintendo could license. But in 1987, NEC released the PC Engine in Japan, a 16-bit competitor to Nintendo's 8-bit Famicom. A year later, in 1988, Sega released their 16-bit Mega Drive console. Nintendo couldn't rest on its laurels and remained the dominant force in video games. Ironically, Nintendo's next big idea was a bit on the small side. Gunpei Yokoi's handheld Game & Watch LCD toys was one of Nintendo's earliest successes in the video game industry. But the future was clearly consoles, and Yokoi had been working on a portable version of the Famicom for years. Replicating the bright, colorful animation of most home consoles would require a backlight and a big drain on the device's battery life, not to mention pricey manufacturing costs. To keep costs down and batteries up, the system would skip color altogether. Yokoi's final design was finished and released as the Game Boy in April 1989. The 8-bit 2-button console took 4 AA batteries that lasted for at least 10 hours, all for about $90. While the Game Boy's monochromatic greenish display wasn't much to look at, and couldn't be seen at all in the dark, it gave consumers one of the most successful pack-in titles yet, Tetris, an addictive Russian puzzle game for which Nintendo had purchased the console rights. It proved to be so addictive, in fact, that Nintendo sold out of its initial run of 1 million Game Boy units in mere weeks of its release, likely on the strength of Tetris alone. Estimates peg Tetris' sales on the Game Boy at over 30 million copies to date. A few months later, in September, Atari released its rival handheld, the backlit, full-color 16-bit Lynx. It didn't stand a chance. The Lynx may have been more powerful, but as Yokoi knew, that power came at a cost. The Lynx's 6 AA batteries could only provide power for roughly half the time of the Game Boy, while selling for more than twice as much, rating up at $190. The choice for consumers was clear, and the Game Boy was a massive success. Though Sega's 8-bit Game Gear, released a year later, had fared better than the Lynx,
The Game Boy was already a runaway train that couldn't be caught. It easily outlasted its competition, selling nearly 119 million units in its unprecedented 14-year life cycle. The fact that the Game Boy boasted Nintendo's exclusive properties only solidified its position as the handheld leader. Shortly after the system's debut, Nintendo published Super Mario Land, a new title produced by Yokoi himself. Mario left the Mushroom Kingdom for a place called Sarasa Land. Instead of rescuing Princess Toadstool from King Koopa, Mario fought a mysterious spaceman named Tatanga to rescue Princess Daisy. But of course, the differences didn't matter. Mario jumped and stomped his way to 18.4 million sales. Other famous names appeared on the Game Boy. Yokoi brought his Lonely Space adventure back for Metroid 2: The Return of Samus in 1992, and Shigeru Miyamoto's The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening was published a year later. But not every Game Boy star came from the NES first. In 1992, a Nintendo-sponsored developer, HAL Laboratory, created a new platformer called Kirby's Dream Land, which starred a flying pink puffball who could swallow up enemies like a vacuum cleaner. And just as Mario was named after Nintendo's landlord, Kirby was named for John Kirby, the ace attorney who defended the company in Universal's 1983 Donkey Kong lawsuit. Even though Nintendo was handily winning the battle for handhelds, the home console war was heating up. Though the Famicom was king in Japan, by 1990 Sega's 16-bit Genesis, the American name for the Mega Drive, was making serious waves. Sega had taken advantage of their competitors' adversarial relationship with third-party developers. For years, Nintendo had held developers hostage by rationing out lockout chips, without which games wouldn't play on the Famicom or NES. Because Nintendo sought absolute control over its products, it transformed itself into little more than a tyrant. Jeff Ryan, author of Super Mario: How Nintendo Conquered America, explains how Sega leveraged Nintendo's bad behavior to their benefit.
When Sega came out with the Genesis, so many third-party developers flocked to them just because Sega was treating their developers well and Nintendo was not. And Nintendo was able to do that because they were the only game in town. They had something like 92% market share. But when the Genesis came around and the Genesis started to gain speed, people realized, oh, finally there's another heavyweight contender out there. There's someone else who can take on the Goliath.
Sega churned out arcade ports and secured exclusive third-party releases, a side effect of a clause in Nintendo's contracts forbidding developers from making games for other consoles. One of the most important turned out to be the very first console version of Electronic Arts' new sports franchise, Madden NFL Football, which earned huge sales during Christmas 1990. And in the following summer, Sega released their own homegrown killer app, a new high-speed platformer called Sonic the Hedgehog. Suddenly, Sega had their own Mario, but one with wild hair, a 90s tood, and the remarkable ability to finally threaten Nintendo's stranglehold on the American console market. But, of course, Nintendo had long been working on the NES's successor. The 16-bit follow-up was released in the fall of 1990 in Japan as the Super Famicom, and in summer 1991 in America as the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The console came with Shigeru Miyamoto's most expansive and best-looking game yet, Super Mario World. Once again, Nintendo's pack-in title helped move systems. According to Ryan's book, Super Mario World sold 3.5 million copies in Japan, while in the States, gamers bought 17 million. 3 days after its US launch, retailers had sold out of the Super Nintendo console. The SNES was a hit, but unlike its predecessor, it faced some fierce competition. Despite Super Mario World's brilliance, Sonic's rush onto the scene had suddenly made Nintendo seem uncool. Sega seemed to represent everything that was hip and new in video games, while Nintendo looked safe, stodgy, and downright old. Even though 1991's SNES was technologically superior to 1988's Genesis in every way. By 1992, sources estimate the Genesis had a roughly 55% market share over its competitor. By 1993, cracks started appearing in Nintendo's public image. A big-budget Hollywood movie based on Super Mario Bros. Starring Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Hopper was released that summer, to abysmal reviews and performance. What should have been Nintendo's ultimate triumph was a universally reviled public embarrassment. Today, Super Mario Bros. Holds a place in cinematic history as not only one of the worst video game movie adaptations, but simply as one of the worst movies. Period. That wasn't the only problem Nintendo faced that year. In September, Acclaim published SNES and Genesis ports of Midway's ultra-violent arcade fighter, Mortal Kombat. But despite being 16-bit versions of the same game, the ports were anything but equal. The Genesis version featured just about every blood-splattering hit and spine-ripping fatality from the original. The SNES port, however, was heavily modified to reflect Nintendo's family-friendly policy. Fatalities were out, tamer finishing moves were in. Absurdly, brutal hits didn't result in sprays of blood, but sprays of grayish sweat. It's estimated that the Genesis version outsold Nintendo's by roughly 4-1, and the move did seemingly irreparable damage to Nintendo's reputation with gamers, as the company continues to fight the perception that it just makes games for kids. But the final tally of the first true console war between the Genesis and the SNES didn't seem to account for Nintendo's missteps. Though Sega never released data, estimates tally the Genesis's worldwide sales at about 29 million worldwide, not quite 2/3 of the Super Nintendo's 49.1 million global sales. When all is said and done, the SNES simply had the better games. Sega's ascendance forced Nintendo to allow multi-platform games from third parties. But Mortal Kombat aside, the Super Nintendo's superior...
Yo, what's up, guys? D1. I mean, what's up? What do I call this painting? It doesn't really have a title yet. It might be, I just might label them 1, 2, and 3 from the Smoking Skull. Smoking Skull 1, 2, and 3. Something simple, something generic, you know, not too complicated. It's just an accurate description of what the piece is. So I got finished tiling my downstairs bathroom yesterday. It looks like an amateur did it. And I'm pretty cool with that because I'm an amateur, so you know, hey. Don't ask more of yourself than you can give. You know, I gave it my all. It doesn't look bad. Another amateur do-it-yourselfer will walk in there and be like, hey, this looks pretty good. And I'd be like, yeah, I know. And then a professional tile guy come in there and be like, yo, who the fuck did this shit? And I'd be like, I had my cousin do it because I'm not going to accept the blame for it. But it's done now, so it is what it is. You know, it's going to be like that until whoever wants to change that bitch next, because I'm not. I might get some new hardware for it down the line, but the hardware isn't too bad. And the shower head works just fine, so all I have left to do now is caulk around the rim of the tub, put some silicone caulk there, and I had to tear out the corner beads, and well, not the corner beads, but the like a little edge trim when I tore the inside of the shower walls out, and I put some new one up, and so I had to do a little bit of mudding around where the new edge trim goes. I got all of that sanded down and everything, and now I just gotta get back in the bathroom wall paint and paint those little mud spots. So it's really down to the nitty gritty. I don't think I'm gonna do that shit today though. It'll be a few hours. Well, no, it might be more than a few hours because I need to paint the door, and there's a storage cabinet in the bathroom. I need to paint that, the inside of that white. I need to paint the door white. I need to paint the windowsill. Damn, the more I keep thinking about this shit, there's still a lot of work left in there. So paint the walls and paint the trim, caulk the tub. Then I should be done with that fucking bathroom. And that's it for a while, you know. I'll do some little small things to the kitchen in springtime. But yeah. I'm tired of working on this house already. And the area I live in, the fucking plumbers around here suck. Like, there are no good plumbers. These guys can't even answer a message or call me back, half of them. But I gotta get a gas line ran, and that's the last thing. But that's... Oh, shit. That's not, something I'm gonna do myself, so... I ain't too much worrying about that shit. I'll let the professionals do that gas line. Damn, as a matter of fact, I really need to get on the phone and see if I can find some plumbers. It's Friday. If no one can't make it out today, I can at least try to set something up for Monday. I start my new job on the 8th, which is Tuesday, I think. So I want to get as much stuff done now before I go back to work. Because, you know how it is when you work a job. You ain't want to come home and do shit. And I definitely don't want to come home and have to go to the laundromat to dry clothes and shit. That's the worst. I know, shit, some people have to do it, but I'm a spoiled, lazy American. I need my dryer in the house so I don't have to take my lazy ass outside. That skull's starting to look real scully. Starting to look like Scully from the X-Files. That was a very, very just horrible joke. Like, it wasn't even, I mean, the punchline was not there at all. The setup was improper. Anyway, you guys get the correlation I was trying to make, you know? Scully, never mind. NT ways.
Where it meant that most of the time, games looked, sounded, and played better. Nintendo could also claim the support of one of Japan's top developers, Squaresoft, whose Final Fantasy series, The Secret of Mana, and Chrono Trigger were SNES exclusives, and helped popularize the RPG genre in America. And besides Super Mario World, the SNES had an impressive roster of first-party games that became industry legends. Familiar titles like The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and
Do humans like overpaying with Verizon? Don't they know they can get the 3rd, 4th, and 5th lines free with Sprint?
Yeah, that means Sprint's unlimited plan gives you 5 lines for just $20 per month per line.
Really?
Not to mention launch title F-Zero, the Super FX chip-powered Star Fox, and the genre-spawning Super Mario Kart. And that wasn't all. The company's decision to buy a 49% stake in British developer Rareware in 1994 proved to be nothing short of genius, as was releasing one of Nintendo's oldest properties from its closely guarded vault. That year, Rare and Nintendo released Donkey Kong Country, a platformer that had more in common with Super Mario Bros. Than the 1981 arcade classic. But visually, Donkey Kong Country was like nothing else on the market. Its developers had animated pre-rendered 3D graphics as 2D sprites. The effect was a game that looked far more technologically advanced than it actually was. Donkey Kong Country sold over 8 million copies worldwide, becoming the second best-selling SNES game of all time. Donkey Kong had come full circle, having regained his rightful place as one of Nintendo's most recognizable and profitable characters. And like Donkey Kong, Nintendo was also regaining its position as top banana in the video game industry. Its reputation for first-class products and its first-class ego had seemed well-earned with the SNES's success. But just as its haughty, prideful attitude with third parties had allowed Sega to swoop in, Nintendo's tradition of arrogant business decisions would prove that what goes around comes around. By the mid-1990s, Nintendo had won the 16-bit console war against Sega. But that victory came at a cost. Its reputation faltered when it censored SNES ports of the ultra-violent and ultra-popular Mortal Kombat. More importantly, Nintendo lost its singular hold on third-party developers. Sega wooed many away to make games for their Genesis, a seduction made easy by Nintendo's years of bullying developers into lopsided contracts. Nintendo's bad behavior led to the first major threat to its industry dominance since Donkey Kong catapulted the company to the top of the video game market. And more of Nintendo's misdeeds would come back to haunt them, as a former business partner would threaten all they had built. Nintendo would soon learn. Since 1988, Nintendo had been working with electronics giant Sony on a console that would play cartridges and CDs, a true multimedia game machine. But when the joint venture began, Nintendo was still the biggest fish in the relatively small video game pond. As the partnership progressed, it became clear that Nintendo didn't want to cede its complete control, and wanted even less to split the profits. Despite the unhappy marriage, work continued on the new device, culminating in a presentation at the Consumer Electronics Show in June 1991. The presentation showed off what had been dubbed the Nintendo PlayStation. On that day in June, Sony's future in the market looked bright. What a difference a day makes. A day after the PlayStation presentation, Nintendo announced it was breaking its contract with Sony, opting to go with its rival Philips instead. Philips had been working on its own CD-based game machine, the CDI, since 1984, bringing it to market later in 1991. Philips would make the CD-based add-on device for Nintendo's 16-bit consoles, not Sony. Little did Nintendo know, but it had created a monster. Sources say that Nintendo broke its contract with Sony because the two companies could never agree on how to divide the never-ending stream of cash the partnership would have made. Perhaps when the contract between the companies was signed in 1988, no one could predict how ubiquitous and important the CD-based medium would truly become. Signing a deal giving Sony more control and profit over CD-based manufacturing and sales, with Nintendo keeping control only over cartridges, may have seemed harmless at the time. But by 1991, it was clear that CDs and their enormous storage capacity were the future of media. Giving control of manufacturing and distribution of CDs to Sony would have made Sony the heavy hitter in the relationship. Nintendo couldn't play second fiddle. Sony fumed at the betrayal and threatened lawsuits, but there were reasons to keep the attorneys at bay. For instance, Sony had supplied the Super Famicom with its sound chip. Eventually, cooler heads prevailed, but the years of work that had gone into the PlayStation would not be wasted. Company president Norio Oga insisted that the company continue its foray into the video game market. Sony had a competitor to crush. Meanwhile, Nintendo's new partnership with Philips didn't quite pan out. It's been speculated that Nintendo's about-face was an attempt to strong-arm Sony into a revised contract that would benefit Nintendo more. And Philips, it seemed, wanted its CDI media format to be the universal standard for all game-playing machines, an idea that didn't jive with Nintendo's preference toward proprietary formats. Worse, Nintendo feared the ease of CD piracy, another potential revenue loss. Nintendo pulled out of that partnership too, but not without paying a price. As part of its agreement with Philips, Nintendo licensed some of its trademark characters to appear in CDI games. The result? Hotel Mario, Link, the Faces of Evil Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon, and Zelda's Adventure are known as some of the worst games to feature these characters. In fact, they're regarded as some of the worst games to feature any characters. Needless to say, the experience reinforced one valuable lesson for Nintendo: keep control. While Nintendo dithered between partners, never releasing the CD playing expansion it had planned on since 1988, Sega had no such problems. The Mega CD expansion for the Mega Drive console was released in Japan in late 1991, with the Sega CD hitting North America the next year. Then, in 1994, Sega released the 32X, another add-on to expand the capabilities of the Genesis. But neither of these peripherals did much for Sega. The Genesis had still come up short to the SNES, as the underwhelming and underselling Sega CD proved. The world wasn't ready for CD-based gaming after all. And American consumers knew that the Sega Saturn, a true 32-bit console already a hit in Japan in '94, was set for a fall 1995 release, so they largely ignored the 32X. But when Sega made a surprise E3 announcement that the Saturn would launch in May, customers, retailers, and developers scratched their heads. Most developers were preparing for a fall launch, so there weren't that many games to buy. Meanwhile, Sony took the opportunity to cut the September launching PlayStation's price to $300, leaving the $400 Saturn to languish on the store shelves. Sega's 4-month head start resulted in a mere 80,000 units sold, while the much-hyped PlayStation sold over 100,000 units in its first weekend. All the while, Nintendo waited. Their own next-gen console, the Ultra 64, had been in development since 1993, but by 1995, it wasn't ready yet. What was ready, however, was the Virtual Boy, a 32-bit portable device that offered gamers full 3D visuals, and also completely red visuals. Gunpei Yokoi had been developing the device with his team since 1991. Throughout that time, the Game Boy inventor struggled with the Virtual Boy's design, and was reluctant for it to go to market. According to Jeff Ryan's book, Super Mario: How Nintendo Conquered America, Yokoi wanted to wait until including full-color visuals was more affordable. Nintendo's president, Hiroshi Yamauchi, however, wanted a new product on the market while the Ultra 64 matured. The Virtual Boy launched in the summer of 1995. It was quietly discontinued less than a year later, having only moved 770,000 units worldwide. The failure made Yokoi a pariah within Nintendo. Yokoi helped develop the Game Boy Pocket, then retired from the company and began consulting. However, Nintendo would never benefit from Yokoi's genius again. In 1997, he was killed in a tragic car accident. It's not clear whether Nintendo's troubles truly began with Yokoi's departure, or if Yokoi's exit was merely a symptom of Nintendo's bigger problems. But when Nintendo released its next-generation console, now called the Nintendo 64, in 1996, it wasn't the dominating force its predecessors had been. The N64 launched to very strong sales. In 4 months in North America, it sold 400,000 units, far outstripping the Saturn's dismal performance. Its $200 launch price was a full $100 less than Sony's PlayStation, but the N64's affordability was diminished due to the high cost of its games, a whopping $70 per cartridge. Fortunately, one of the system's best-loved and most successful launch titles, Super Mario 64, was more than worth the price of admission. Nintendo's resident genius, Shigeru Miyamoto, had done it again, reinventing Mario in a way that was both brand new and comfortably familiar. For the first time, Mario existed in a deep, fully three-dimensional world, freed from the flat lands of 2D side-scrolling. Miyamoto had packed 13 enormous levels full of exploration, taking a page out of the Zelda playbook. To complete the game, players rooted through every nook and cranny in an effort to find all the stars and coins that they could. But Miyamoto's game was part of the reason the N64 was delayed a year. Originally, he'd wanted to include 40 levels in the game. In fact, some of the elements he couldn't fit into Super Mario 64 appeared in The Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time, which was released 2 years later in 1998. Both games were considered masterpieces, as were many of the other first-party games Nintendo published. Star Fox 64 and Mario Kart 64 were enormous expansions of the original SNES titles, while new franchises like Super Smash Bros. And Mario Party found popularity of their own. And Rare, the studio behind the SNES smash Donkey Kong Country, delivered another critical hit for the system in 1997, GoldenEye 007, which sold more than 8 million copies and offered what seemed impossible, a great first-person shooter on a console. GoldenEye paved the way for the torrent of console first-person shooters that have followed. And best of all, GoldenEye was an N64 exclusive. But amid Nintendo's successes,
oh my God, the
there was
glare
a
is
critical
still
piece
so
of the
bad
puzzle
in here.
missing: third parties. The reason? Cartridges. As game makers continued to up the ante with cinematic visuals and sound, it was apparent that
I gotta get that
CD
black
was
paint,
best
man,
suited
and
for the
paint.
job.
Go ahead and paint this
They were
fucking room.
inexpensive to manufacture and held tons of data. While
I might try to price some black paint today. See how fast, if I can just run through this room in a couple hours across the weekend. I say I won't even put no drop cloth in that town. I just come here with a brush and a motherfucking 18-inch roller and just start swiping this bitch. Whoop, shoot, shoot. Swipe the whole goddamn wall. Shoot, shoot. The glare has always annoyed me. Alright guys. Did about 2.5 hours. I'm gonna grab some breakfast. I said I gotta do some shit online. I need to contact a fucking plumber. And get some other shit done. It's still real early in the day, so yeah, it ain't even 10 o'clock yet. So there's always a good chance I'll be back on here later on. Appreciate everybody coming through and stopping in. I'll get with you guys later, yo. Peace. Till next time.